Thank you, Joy Doreen, there with your team of forensic experts on these issues, technology. Let's put an end to this before we get into some of the political stories developing across the country. Mano, let me start with you. What next on the part of the IBC, on the part of NASA?
I think, first of all, IBC must move very fast to declare Uhuru Kenyatta the President of the Republic of Kenya, having been re-elected with about 54% or 54.3% of the vote. And this is based on the results that we are seeing. I can be able to state that Uhuru Kenyatta will win this election by getting 54% or 54.3% of the total votes that have been cast. And having done that, then it allows for the process to move on to the next system, whether it's a Supreme Court appeal or any other thing that comes thereafter. On the part of NASA, I understand, and it is their democratic right to be able to demand and want to see that every single vote that was cast, not just for them, but also for everybody else, has been counted. Every Kenyan will want to see that happening as well. And it is in their right to be able to ask for Form 34A, Form 34B, and every other form that is being filled and collated during the electoral process. And I'm sure that once people have gone through all those forms, people will realize that the numbers that are being put up on the screens are the exact same numbers. But let me also just clarify something. Based on what IBC CEO was saying, they began making Forms 34A public at 1 p.m. We are now at about 11 p.m. in the evening, almost 10 hours later. We are yet to see somebody saying, hey, wait a minute, there are certain number of forms here that seem not to be matching what you had on, on your website.
Fair enough. What next, according to you, Javas?
Well, I think guided by the information that's come from Chiloba and the commission's chair, that these years, of course, are not yet the final results, but they are looking to work toward getting that final result. It then calls on us as Kenyans not to be too rash with expectation. It's proper that we do not become extremists of hope or extremists of fear or anxiety. So it is important that, of course, yes, on the part of IBC, they do their part, their legal mandate to execute their tasks, but much more than that. Let our politicians help IBC do their job and not direct the IBC to do their job. And then also the other very important thing is that appreciating the place of law and the rule of law that all of us are claiming, including the politicians, to embrace. We know very well that whatever has been declared as results at the constituency level, going by even the Court of Appeals as upholding the High Court ruling, that is then the exact results that cannot be altered. Right. Then it is only proper that whenever there are concerns relating to those results or the need for change or alteration whatsoever, then the path of the rule of law should be pursued, which is going to court. And moving forward, I think, guided also by momentarily the observable facts, then it's easy to possibly project that in this election 2017, we can come to a possible conclusion that Uhuru Kenyatta is going to be re-elected as president of Kenya.
Is going to win or has already won?
Right. It's very interesting.
The final announcement.
You know, the responsibility of IBC within 7 days is to declare the winner. And as we see right now, there's a probability that it's going to be either President Kenyatta or Raila Odinga. But as we address those, maybe there are several questions that we need to ask so that we can identify a way forward. My understanding of the law is that there were elections held at the polling station, and the information was supposed to move to the constituency, to have the constituency returning officer announce who was won. And for some reason, I'm yet to see any media house in Kenya actually having a constituency returning officer making public any information. Instead, what we've been told is that a number of the constituency returning officers sent a text message to the tallying center without the requisite instrument. That's Form 34B. Now, be that as it may, it was very surprising this evening when the IBC, when they were doing a news conference a few hours ago, they said that in fact they only have 10 Form 34Bs.
Right.
And the general understanding is that we are supposed to make a decision on who is winning the election or who is losing after you carefully go through that Form 34B. A number of my friends who voted in Kileleshwa, when I was comparing notes with them today, they said they went back to their polling stations. They went back to the constituent centers to find out actually whether their vote has counted. But they did not find that these instruments pinned at the various note spots.
Right.
So while IBC must move with speed because people are becoming anxious, but they must be informed by accuracy, because it's important to be accurate and ensure that you deliver the right information instead of regretting. So that when IBC finally declares, say, President Kenyatta the winner, if anybody tells Kenyans go to the streets, people will say no. Or if IBC declares Raila Odinga the winner, if anybody tells Kenyans to go to the streets, they'll say no. But if you're going to make a declaration in some sort of darkness, when it's very misty, when it's very foggy, then you're going to create room for suspicion.
All right.
But Kitty, let me just
we need to move away from this. We need to move away from the presidential. Let's let the IBC do its job and let's.
But no, Kitty, we cannot be afraid. We cannot be afraid to speak of what is there as well.
We need to move on. Okay. Away from the presidential race. I mean, there are 5 other elective positions that are, being taken care of in this general election. I want us to talk about some of what has been called as, termed as big losers and big winners in terms of the 47 county governors. Of course, this, according to the provisional results, again being provided on that electronic portal by IEBC. We've seen Nairobi, we have seen the county of Bomet, where Joyce Laboso seems to have an unassailable lead over Governor Isaac Ruto. We've seen Kiambu, Waititu versus Kabogo. Let's start with the capital city county of Nairobi. And according to the portal, the provisional results, with 95% of the votes tallied, Jubilee's Mike Sonko Mbuvi, the Nairobi senator, is leading with 831,335 votes. That is 53% of the votes cast in Nairobi. And Evans Kidero has 665,531 votes. Very quickly, Dismas, what's your reaction to this? What is your initial reaction to this? Of course, Kidero has said he doesn't trust those results by the IEBC so far tallied.
Well, 2 general reactions. One is a scientific reaction. It's a... I saw the body language of Dr. Kidero, and he claims that this election has been rigged, as his party leader had indicated, by a certain factor. But again, it's now incumbent on IBC to actually look at those results to find out whether there's any mischief, which Kidero has pointed out, and declare the results. And if Kidero is still unhappy, then he's got the opportunity to go to the courts and point out the mistakes to find out whether it can be reversed. But at a personal level, in my view, Dr. Kidero deserves actually to get a beating, because in Nairobi it's not delivered. In my view, he has done the bare minimum, because you cannot have a city 50 years later in Nairobi where people are suffering from cholera. I mean, from the time he was elected as the governor for Nairobi, he's done the bare minimum. Now, that's the first tragedy. This? For me, I'm very happy that, I mean, assuming that the ballots are there being counted, they're accurate, I'm very happy that people are teaching Kidero a lesson. But now the second tragedy is they're replacing mediocrity again with the mediocrity. Because, Sonko was serving with Kidero. Sonko was supposed to oversee the administration of the Nairobi County. Mm-hmm. So when Kidero was making his mistakes, Sonko did not come out. He did not go to the top of a mountain and make noise that Dr. Kidero, you are failing to deliver. When you look at his contribution at the Senate, there's no piece of legislation which comes out that you can say Sonko has done something amazing.
All right.
So I think now for residents of Nairobi, it's a tragedy that if you don't have Dr. Kidero, you replace him with mediocrity, then you have Governor Sonko. So I think for the next 5 years, we have to take care of ourselves.
Javas, what is your initial reaction to this? Did you expect this performance by Sonko?
It was nearly something that one could come to a conclusion about, because the manner in which Sonko has run his populist politics, it could point to that kind of direction. But what also we are saying is, catwalk egoism that is at play. You see, when Dr. Kidero, for example, said that he is rejecting the outcome, the poll outcome, the projected poll outcome, I think his rejection should be rejected because he's not even pointed to critical hard facts as to why he is disputing this election, except by way of pointing to some arithmetic of some percentages that actually is hypothetical.
All right.
And that, of course, may not even stand the test of time. Because if they are upholding and appreciating, for example, the election of Honorable Passaris, and then they are rejecting the senatorial results and then gubernatorial results, I think there is something amiss there. But much more than that, as we look at the kind of success in this poll for somebody like Sonko, one thing that we may not have examined is what is the political philosophy of Sonko? Or does he have a political philosophy aligned to a particular political ideology that could have led to this kind of win? In the end, I think, of course, we know very well that our politics is scarcely characterized by strength in political philosophies or ideology. But what was mainly at play was the populist politics.
All right.
Now that Governor-elect Sonko is likely to take the mantle or the reins of power in Nairobi, having chastised and pointed fingers, sharp fingers, at Governor Kidero during his full reign about poor performance, of course, which is self-evident, and lack of provision of various basic services. We saw the Sonko rescue team and all these things. We want to see to what extent will he demonstrate excellence in service delivery that will even surpass what he was trying to do with this Sonko rescue team.
All right. Mano, your initial reaction to what's happening in Nairobi?
You know, that the most of Nairobi did not like Kidero is not hidden from all of us. I think all you needed to do was to listen to Kidero's campaigns and to listen to Kidero speaking during the debate that I think was conducted by Joe Ageo. And when you ask him and his running mate as well, what are some of the big things that they've done for Nairobi? And they start saying, you know, when we came in over the last 4 years, we've improved the rating or the ranking of Nairobi as a business hub. Think of the guy who is pushing Mkokoteni in Kangemi. And you are telling him that my success or my contribution to Nairobi is that I've made Nairobi rise up in rankings as a business destination in the world? Will that guy understand that thing? But having said that, I want to take this discussion a bit differently. Is that I found that every time people discuss Sonko, is then people then start putting a philosophy or an ideology with that discussion.
He has none.
But Sonko is just a guy who feels the pulse of the nation. By the nation here, I'm defining within the area that is operating. Whether it's the local member of parliament or now as a governor, he's just feeling the pulse and is able to do things and tap into things that appeal to the people or the masses from the areas that he operates in. And that is simply what has made him win.
All right, we have a lot of races to talk about very quickly. We have a little time. Let's talk about Bomet. And this is something that maybe political pundits will say was kind of a fight between the Isaac Ruto, the Bomet governor, and the Deputy President William Ruto. A political, philosophical fight in the South Rift. Joyce Laboso, the Sotik Member of Parliament, Deputy Speaker, is leading with 175,932, 67% of the total votes in the county of Bomet. Isaac Ruto of CCM has 85,863. These are provisional results, of course, but this is rather a beating, isn't it?
Yeah, probability of Governor Isaac Ruto going home is almost 1. There is no doubt in anybody's mind. But in my view, Governor Isaac Ruto deserves a pat on the back because he's a politician who is a rare pedigree. He stood up for what he thinks is right. Majority of the politicians we have today, be they in NASA or Jubilee, they're in these political parties not because they identify with anything, but because, you know, they want to be beneficiaries of the political capital of their leaders. Like, for instance, majority of the people who will be in Jubilee today, you wouldn't say they necessarily identify with the president or his deputy, but because they know when they're in that political party, it's easy for them to benefit from a particular wave. And I think also Governor Munya falls in that category. For Governor Isaac Ruto, when he identified what he wanted to do, he said, whether it's going against the grain, whether I'm going to ruffle feathers, I'm I'm going to stick to my path. And this is something that Governor Isaac Ruto has not started today. If you recall, when he was Minister for Vocational Training during President Moi's administration, wherever he decided on driving a particular agenda, he would drive that agenda, stick to it. And one wishes that we had many more politicians in Kenya who would identify a particular agenda and drive it, even if it means losing their political seats. And this is not the first time that Governor Isaac Ruto is losing his political seats. Maybe this gives him the opportunity to go back home and relax and take care of his dust and look at 2022. But these are, in my view, these are the kind of politicians we need, people who can stick up to their principles.
All right. Javas, I want to put it together with what's happening in Meru. That is Governor Peter Munya, who is, of course, as well, he's trailing Kiraitu Murungi. These two gentlemen have been the first two chairs of the Council of Governors. They seem to be going home. What went wrong for them?
Maybe there is a problem with that chair because all of them now are being sent home. But however, I think success in politics is not determined by how keenly you want to lose your seat, but how actually you retain that seat, how suave you are, how persuasive you are, how you retain a seat by all means or any means necessary. So the renegade in Bomet has been vanquished. And initially, of course, there was all that just thumping and the issue of shoving of muscles between him and the deputy president. But you see, what has come out very clear is that there is some kind of motion or movement or loyalty that is unassailable within the entire Rift Valley, that when a people choose, then majority of the people choose to move that direction because they want to have their interests in a particular direction. Now, that doesn't mean that Governor Ruto did not perform. That doesn't mean that he's not a good leader. He is a good leader. But you see, one needs to lift their heads up and read the signs of the times. He failed. For purposes of just trying to show that he is of a different breed or carved out of a particular timber, he chose a particular direction that was against the grain. Now, that's not necessarily something to celebrate because today, when he was conceding, he was not conceding in glee because he is crestfallen tonight. When you look at the situation in Meru, you realize that these individuals have been going for each other's jugular. And maybe somebody like Honorable Kiraitu initially may have thought that it would serve him well to be at the Senate. But having gone to the Senate halfway, the journey, he realized that maybe he would serve the people, better when he goes back to be a governor. But what has come out very clear is that the people may want to identify with certain kind of politics, because when the people of Meru choose to have their governor in Honorable Kiraitu, then there could be a way in which they did not buy into the postulative ambition of Governor Munya, because he had said he's going to run for presidency in 2022. So maybe the manner in which also Governor Munya packaged himself as a politician and also as a potential presidential candidate, carrying or having wrapped the dreams and aspirations of the people of Meru and possibly the entire nation later, did not appeal so much at the marketplace. And that's why now he's facing defeat.
All right. Mano?
It's
Meru, Bomet.
Bomet is an interesting one. And Ruto is a good man. He's a very good man. And as a human being, I think everybody who's met him has said he's a good man. But I think in this year, in this electoral process, he was the baby-faced next-door sales guy. He sold something that did not exist. He went to the NASA principals and told them, look, I will deliver South Rift to you. He failed to deliver even his own gubernatorial seat. And remember, when the party primaries were coming up, his statement then was, why should I participate in a party primary that I know is already rigged? But I think what he probably was telling us is that I understand I'm highly likely to lose against Laboso. But I also agree with Dismas that we need leaders who are committed to a cause. But it needs to be a good cause, not just any other cause for that matter. And over the years, you listen to Governor Isaac Ruto and you ask him, what course are you committed to? And he speaks about devolution. But probably you need to read the report, the devolution report, or the various reports that have been prepared about Bomet County itself, and ask yourself, has devolution in itself been properly done within Bomet? And somebody might start asking, no, but we give them little money or whatever. And I agree, maybe the money is little. But there's also the law that is followed. But what has he done in Bomet? But having said that, he had a proper worthy opponent in Dr. Laboso. She ran a good race. She was very well planned. And for the case of Munya and Kiraitu, the Mbas guy, the Mbas just ran over Kimunya. I mean, there's no over Munya, rather.
All right.
There's no other way to define it.
Yes.
Just allow me to make a point. In my view, the success of a politician is not measured by how many elections you win. I think it's measured by the course that you are driving. And this course is supposed to be driven by the people you seek to represent. It's not supposed to be defined by the other fellow politicians.
What defines the success?
For instance, for the case of Governor Isaac Ruto, Governor Isaac Ruto was not running against Dr. Joyce Laboso. It's erroneous again to say that he was running against Laboso. No, he was not. He was running against the Deputy President, William Ruto. I've lost count of the number of visits the President and his deputy made to Bomet to ensure that they teach Governor Isaac Ruto a lesson.
All right.
And
all
that's
right.
when they've delivered.
Very quickly, let's focus on the lower eastern part of Kenya. That is Ukambani. We've seen what's happening in Machakos, where Dr. Alfred Mutua looks poised to retain that seat. He went against the grain of Wiper Party. Wavinya Mdeti was tipped to cause an upset there. That seems not very likely at this moment, according to the provisional results. In the county of Kitui as well, Charity Ngilu, a former cabinet secretary, a former member of parliament for Kitui Central, is leading on that gubernatorial tally with 162,768. That is 47% of the vote. David Musila is second with 108,635. Remember, David Musila lost in the Wiper nominations to incumbent Dr. Julius Malombe and was running as an independent candidate. Dr. Julius Malombe, who was tipped again to retain his seat, is third with 71,900 votes. That is about 95% of the votes cast. Did you expect this very quickly?
Well, now Dr. Alfred Mutua is in the same category with Governor Munya and Governor Ruto because he decided his own path, he decided his course, referred to as a Mandela
Only this
chapter.
time successfully so.
Yeah, but he was able to go against the grain because you remember he was going against somebody who is perceived to be as the Kamba kingpin. That's Kalonzo Musyoka with his philosophy of Mandela chapter,
Right.
later Mandela Arakaraka. I'm not sure whether he's actually delivered the Mandela in Machakos because when you go to Machakos and you speak with the citizens, they will easily roll their eyes when you say it's delivered. But at least he's believed in a cause and he's driven it, gone against the grain,
All right.
and the folks in Machakos have decided to reward him.
Give him money.
Yeah,
Javas?
assuming that the facts are true.
All right.
The loudest voice is the voice of the ballot, and that has been expressed in Machakos. It is the voice of the people, and they have done so by expressing their confidence in the leader of their choice. While there have been issues that have been raised by his opponent about certain two or so areas, it is important to note that even though the claim could be, as Mokua has indicated, that maybe he has not delivered, but you see, the people will not
All right.
come out in sufficient numbers to vote for you because you did not deliver.
All right.
It's because, to their satisfaction, they felt that you performed in a manner that you deserve another chance.
All right.
And that's what has happened there.
Mano, very quickly, I want us to go to the Bomas and come and wrap up the
I think the biggest loser in the whole of Kombani is Kalonzo Musyoka. And I'm saying that because all of a sudden, you've got a governor in Machakos who's not aligned to your party, and you've got Charity Ngilu who's also not in your party. So there are basically three parties that control Machakos. And it will be interesting to see how then will Kalonzo Musyoka fit within that structure of Ukambani.
All right. We'll come back to wrap up this and, of course, take a look at other areas and what this means, especially how this second set of governors is set to look like, in your opinion. Let's now go to the National Tallying Center and find out what's happening there, the Bomas of Kenya. Our Yusuf Ibrahim will be keeping an eye on things overnight. There's no sleeping for him. Yusuf,